All right, welcome to another Small Business Pivots where we bring special guest from around the world. And today we literally have one that's across the world from us here in Oklahoma. And I know that business owners can say their name and their business like none other. So I'll let you introduce yourself. Tell us a little bit about you, where you're from.
Yeah, thanks for having me, Michael. Now, before we start, let me first share a core belief that I hold dear. I believe that all of us, all you listeners as well, all of us have the potential to be what I am calling an architect of change. In the era that we're living in at the moment, which is really defined by constant transformation, our task is not just to keep up, but to actively shape the path forward. Now, if you look at me, I started out my career stacking shelves and learning the ropes of people management as a trainee in a supermarket in the UK, which is where I'm from. Then I changed to the more precise world of accounting. Yeah, I'm a bean counter. And later navigating what is now the constantly evolving landscape of tech, but also of people, humans. My story really demonstrates the power of transformation and continuous learning and the impact that each one of us can make. Every day, I think that all our actions, whether they're big or small, they actually shape our future. And as we discuss stuff today, Michael, I want everybody listening to remember this. You are your brand, and every single decision you make, and not deciding to decide as a decision, is part of the unique story that you're crafting for yourself. How you react, how you adapt, and how you innovate in the face of all of this change that is happening will define your story and, more importantly, your legacy. Okay, it's this belief inspiring each of us to aim for what I call balanced fulfillment. It's the cornerstone of my work these days. It's my life purpose. So as we dive into our conversation today, let's not just think about adapting to change, but about how we can define it. After all, if we can embrace our unique abilities, and you all have them, that's why you're all business owners listening in, you all have them, all right, and you strive for that personal growth, you're not just a participant, you're the catalyst in what I call our ever-changing business as unusual world. So let's get started, Michael.
All right. Well, let's introduce yourself first, and then we'll introduce the show.
Who am I? My name's Rick. As you've heard, I'm a Brit. You might hear from my accent. I am from across the water. I'm currently standing here in Switzerland, where I spend about 75% of my time. And the other 25% of my time I spend in Vietnam, where until last year, I've been pretty much living there for the last 35 years.
Wow.
I am an accountant by training. Things have happened. And I've gone, I retired back in 1994, which didn't work very well, which is why I'm still working.
Right. This is 2025.
I know. But it's I'm still working because I'm a converted workaholic. So I used to be a workaholic, and I'm trying to kill that terrible habit.
Yeah.
Because it is a really, really bad habit.
It is.
And that's what it is. It's a habit, a bad one. and I started my own company 30 years ago. Actually, this year will be 31 years for the main company, TRG. And I'm a bean counter. Yes, we sell and implement accounting systems all around the world. So I haven't gone too far away from that discipline. And recently, about 7 years ago, I've pivoted slightly, and I now do coaching as well as speaking, and I author a few things like books.
Yeah, well, our listeners need to buckle up because we have two coaches on the show today, but let's introduce our podcast and we'll be right back. Welcome to Small Business Pivots, a podcast produced for small business owners. I'm your host, Michael Morrison, founder and CEO of Boss, where we make business ownership simplified for success. Our business is helping yours grow. Boss offers business loans with business coaching support. Apply in minutes and get approved and funded in as little as 24 to 48 hours at businessownershipsimplified.com. All right, welcome back to Small Business Pivots. My friend, you're a coach. We were talking earlier about coaching people up. Architect of change, you led off the podcast with some great information. Let's keep that going. So how can we help others as a coach, as a leader, as a business owner in our businesses so that we're not working in the business, we're not trapped in the business, we can work on it. And a lot of that has to do with our people, and our listeners are small business owners. Many of them are stuck. They feel trapped. They're working in their business countless hours a day and probably don't feel like they're getting anywhere. And they want to get somewhere like you have gone, but that takes a special person to be able to coach the people you need around them. So let's start there if you don't mind.
Yeah, let's address that working in the business and on the business. I was one of those people who started off, one man and a dog, except I didn't even have a dog. Start off by myself, and I think I could do it all. Which is a bit silly because I was an accountant and I know my debits and credits, and that was about it. So anything else about a business, that was a bit of a struggle. What do I know about sales or marketing or customer support or HR and all of that kind of stuff? I don't know. So you learn it the hard way, and having learned it, you're still doing it. But the mistake, I guess, that I made, even as we scaled, is failing to let go. And what I mean by that is just because I can do it, and I can maybe do some things, or maybe a lot of things, so I thought, better than anyone else, even the people that I hired, that's not your role. If you are the business owner, why are you working in the business? Okay, anything that you can get rid of, because you can get someone else to do it, get them to do it, and focus on either growing your business, really work on it, or if you really are, that subject matter expert, and it's the unique thing about your business is that unique skill that you have. Okay, fine, just do that. Don't do anything else. So what I found the hardest thing to do was actually letting go. Yes, you hired a person to do that, HR or whatever, but so why are you still involved? Why are you still trying to do it? Or even worse for me, I'm an accountant. I hire a bunch of accountants to do the accounting of the company. And yeah, I'm all over them, and it just goes on and on and on and on. So it's either teach ourselves or, grab ourselves a coach or a mentor. And, we need to see that we've got to get away from working in the business. We're supposed to be the business owner. All right. It's an investment. Okay. Get other people to do it. Train them, pass all your knowledge to them so they're even better than you are. And sit back and do whatever you want.
How did you let go? Because I think that is the number one challenge for most business owners. In fact, I just talked to one yesterday that said, if I let go and it doesn't happen, I'm the one that has to take the heat from the client. So how does one program themselves or transform themselves to let go? Systems, you talk about scaling a business, and you have scaled an incredible business, TRG, and others, as you said. How did you go from that mindset of I'm a small business owner to now I can build this empire, but I got to do this, this, and this? Kind of walk us through those steps.
Okay, there's several you say that red flags that could come up. All right, I'm going to pick on them in reverse order.
All right.
Okay. All right. I'm a baby boomer. Okay. I'm a baby boomer. which means I'm supposed to be retired off in a few years.
Yeah.
I've got to my sell by date, right? And you know, when you get to that stage, let's say, all right, in the next 3 to 5 years, you're just going to stop working. You look at your business and said, if you walk away in that time period, can it carry on running? Because if you're not going to sell it, can it still continue? Yeah, you can stay on as some kind of advisor or mentor or whatever, and still pull some dividends in. But you've got to be able to walk away so it runs without you. Okay, so age is one thing, but don't wait until you get to that expiry date before you realize, because it might be a little bit too late.
Yeah.
Okay, it might be a little bit too late. So rather than looking forward to really putting your feet up and sort of reaping the benefits of what you've built up over the many years, you're scrabbling around trying to piece it all together so it doesn't fall apart. Okay, so that's an age thing that's really driven by that. Another one is, what we're really talking about there is business continuity. It's no different irrelevant of your age. You get hit by that truck, okay, and you cease to exist. All right, if that actually happened, will your business continue? All right. And for a lot of business owners, yeah, okay, you're doing a lot of this for yourself, of course, but you're doing it for your family, right? You want to pass it on. Okay. But if you get hit by a truck today, this afternoon, and you are not around, will it still continue? Okay. And I'm not really talking, on the one hand, you can say you should have that. That's business continuity. But I'm really looking at it from the owner's perspective of all the reasons we give ourselves why we shouldn't do it. Hey, I'm still young. Don't have to think about that. I'm not going to get hit by a truck. That's silly. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. So that's already two things. What's the third one? A third one is health. Okay. When we're young, we can put up with all sorts of stuff. We're generally a lot healthier. But unfortunately, as we get older, things start breaking down.
Oh, I'm there. I'm there.
We don't bounce back as fast. So the first red flag to me was the dawning realization that, yes, I wasn't young anymore. When I started the company, hey, we're all at 20s or 30 something. Everyone was young. 30 years later, well, funny enough, we're older. So age was driving me, and I had ignored that one. I have always ignored the being hit by a truck. More fool me. I haven't been hit by anything, which is good. But it's the health thing that was the real trigger for me, because when COVID came along, despite what was happening during COVID, I eventually caught COVID after about 2 years. That's about 22, and unfortunately, I caught long COVID, and it did a few things to me. Number one, it really messed with my sense of smell and sense of taste. All right. And I literally lost at least half of it, which is a problem because one of the other businesses I have is I run a coffee chain. Okay. And it suddenly became, we have about 24 different types of wonderful coffee. This is an American coffee chain, by the way. PJ's of New Orleans. So big shout out to PJ's down south there. And it came to the point that, with this long COVID, that you could put whatever coffee in front of me that I've known because we've been selling it for years, and I couldn't tell you what it is.
Wow.
So you could give me a hazelnut coffee, beautiful aroma, and I couldn't tell you what it is. And in fact, it doesn't matter what it was, it all tasted revolting anyway, just like water, which also smelt horrible. Water doesn't smell, and it tastes revolting. So I had a lot of issues, okay, which maybe tripped up that business a bit because I sort of was losing interest. Like, what value can I add if I can't even taste the damn coffee? I can't do a quality check. I can't do anything. I can't even make a cup of coffee anymore because I don't know if it tastes nice or not.
Yeah.
But the other thing was this workaholism thing. I enjoy work, working 80 to 100 hours a week. I enjoy it. That's what I told myself. And I don't need to sleep very much. And then I got this long COVID thing and I needed a thing called sleep. Usually a good night's sleep was you're horizontal for 6 hours, which means you're sleeping for probably only about five.
Yeah.
With the long COVID is like, that's a nothing. And even if I was in bed for 12 hours and I slept for like 11 of them, I'd wake up and I'd feel like death warmed up.
Hmm.
Okay. And then there was all the trying to think. I couldn't think. I could hardly string, sentences together that mean anything. Okay. What did it mean? It means I can't run the business. I can't run the business. And so I had to really rely on people to run it. And it was a massive wake up call that, I've maybe been abusing myself for some decades. It's maybe I should get into shape and get
Yeah.
some sleep and try and get over all of this. Okay, I still need a lot of sleep today. But that was what 2, 3 years ago. And that was the real wake up call, the massive red flag that says, hey, you really can actually not feel very healthy, not be very healthy. And therefore, if you're not healthy, how can you possibly deliver properly in your own organization?
Hmm.
Okay. You've got to let go. You've got to find people to do other stuff, and because I'm not going to work a gazillion hours a week anymore, delegate everything, learn how to delegate properly, just do it. Okay. So that was another red flag. Again, I'm going backwards now. So these are all the really negative things, right? You're getting old, you get hit by the truck,
Yeah.
you get unhealthy, so you can't work. So, I wouldn't wish that on anyone. Sorry, can't do anything about the getting older.
Yeah.
And so what else? Another red flag is not having the systems, not having the SOPs, not having the processes. So, and who has them? You do. They're all in your head. You know them all backwards, forwards. You know them perfectly, and you can explain to anyone. The only problem is it's not you who needs to know them; it's them.
Right.
Okay.
Good point.
So not only would that be helpful if you're onboarding new people, because all they have to do is read the process and they can teach themselves rather than you have to do it or someone else have to do it, is here's the thing for business owners. The Your business is worth less. It's worth less if you don't have it fully documented. Because if someone's going to buy your business, they're maybe buying your brand name. Yeah, okay, you've been doing good, fantastic. They are buying the people that you have, maybe the knowledge that they have. But the problem is, if the knowledge is locked up in people, there's no guarantee that they will remain there. I mean, just like when you yourself walk away from the business, you retire or whatever you do, or decide to do something else, unless you've documented literally all your knowledge and passed it on into that organizational knowledge, all those SOPs and processes, that knowledge has been lost. So anybody who wants to buy your business, if they can't see that knowledge locked into those processes, why should they pay for it if it's going to walk out the door? And I've spoken to a few companies who, having had no documented processes, and they were trying to sell the company, and they couldn't understand why they were getting a terrible valuation. Wind forward a few years, and they built all the processes. They've actually captured that organizational knowledge. And then they went for another valuation, and they're getting the numbers that they want. It's going to be very, very hard to let go if it's not documented.
Yeah.
Because how's anybody else going to pick up the reins and run with it? Okay. Now, it may be, again, subconsciously, are we deliberately not documenting stuff so we can still play in the game because we don't want to let go?
What you're talking about is almost like a repercussion if you don't do these things, because as a we offer business loans, but we offer business coaching support as well. A third of our clients are 55 and older. And the reason for that is because their business is worth nothing. They went to try to sell it. They're looking at retiring soon. This was all they know. This was going to be their nest egg. They're figuring out, like you said, it's not worth anything because you didn't do all these things. You didn't prepare. There's no one else that knows how to do the things you do. Your kids don't want it, mostly because, or their kids don't want it, mostly because they were working the 80 hours a week and they're like, I don't want to do that to my kids. So I don't want it. Well, if your kids don't want it, no one else wants it. It's zero value. So thinking of those repercussions in that, no matter what age you are as a listener, you got to think of, I could be hit by a truck tomorrow. It's not, your business is worth nothing without you if you think about it that way. And so those are all valid points. I like how you worked backwards.
Now, on that valuation, it's obviously worth a lot to you as the business owner.
Yes.
You've put your heart and soul, your blood, sweat, and tears, maybe every dollar that you have into it as well. Nothing wrong in that. But the thing is, if your intention was at some point in time that is to realize the value that you've created so you can pass it, either enjoy it yourself or pass it on to your own family or to someone else or whatever charity that you want to give it to, or a mix of them. It's not what you think it's worth, it's what other people think it's worth.
Yeah.
Okay. And since you're not going to be there, all your knowledge, which is systems, processes, must be captured because that's what they're buying. It's one of the things that they're buying. Okay. And it's not just the processes, it's the people that you've got. All right. So you've got to hire the right people. They've got to understand those processes. They've got to be doing them, religiously, and doing them well and improving them. Okay. Because they're not static. Things change, right? Technology has changed. So what's right today is maybe not work anymore in a year's time because, hey, that's outdated technology. We have to update that process. When you're trying to sell, people want to buy a going concern. They want to buy something that really exists and will continue to exist. They don't want everybody quitting within a few months, okay, because you're no longer there. They want it to carry on. So there's an awful lot that we need to do as a business to ensure that continuity. Now, there's a Japanese concept called Shinais.
You're listening to Small Business Pivots. This podcast is produced by my company, Boss. Our business is helping yours grow. Boss offers business loans with business coaching support. Apply in minutes and get approved and funded in as little as 24 to 48 hours at businessownershipsimplified.com. If you're enjoying this podcast, don't forget to hit the subscribe button and share it as well. Now let's get back to our special guest.
Now, there's a Japanese concept called Shinais, okay? And there are about 30,000 Japanese companies that embrace this. And what it means, it's a company that has lasted for a very long time, generations, hundreds of years, okay? And it really comes from, passing it down through the generations. Now, I've taken that concept and I've tweaked it a bit, okay? Because one of the things when I look at organizations and I work with organizations, coaching them or whatever, I like to introduce this concept of the Shinais concept and look at it that we're trying to, ensure that our business is sustainable way into the future. So rather than, we're not necessarily handing it across to our kids, through the family, because it might not be a family-owned company. All right. It's just passing it on to the next generation. As I said, I'm a baby boomer. Okay. I'm going to be retired off soon. I'm not going to be around in 30, 40 years from now. Yeah. Okay. Unless something miraculous happens with healthcare. and I live into my hundreds or something. But you're passing on to the next generation of people who are running the company. you know. Maybe, if you were a startup, you attracted all these people because, you're a young startup, great ideas, wonderful, and they all join and everything is wonderful and great. And, a decade or two goes by and they get a bit older. Are they going to maybe they want to be running the company. So when are you going to go? When do they have their shot? And then are they able to pass it on to the next generation of people? So that's the longevity of the company. You can only do that if things have been documented and systematized, and you've built that culture of passing on knowledge, of growing other people, all that succession planning. Who's going to take over whatever role in the company? Okay, so it's really, really resilient. It doesn't matter what happens. Yeah, things happen. People get hit by trucks. People get old. People quit or whatever, for good and bad reasons. Can our business sustain it? Do we have enough depth of succession planning to cater for that? The stronger that is, the longer your business will last. Year after year, decade after decade, maybe into the hundreds of years. That's the Shinais concept. And I think we need to think about that, because maybe, yes, you are the business owner and you started the business, but isn't that part of your legacy? 100 years from now, do people want to remember that you started that company? And it's great because of you, and your principles and values are still there, and they're being upheld by these other people, and they're continuing it and expanded on it and grown on it. Is that how you want to be remembered? Or would you rather people saying, how did that company start? Don't know.
Many businesses in the US don't last past the third generation. The original founder put in the blood, sweat, and tears. It's got the most value. Their kids, if they take over, might run it well. About 50% of them don't. And then the grandkids, once it gets to the third generation, all they remember is grandpa and grandma had a lot of money. And so they're not in it for the blood, sweat, and tears. They're just in it for the money. And of course, that's not sustainable. So if you don't have these systems and things in place, the company's people dependent and not process dependent. And so when I say that the businesses have zero value for the companies that have approached us when they're 55 and older, it's because they don't have that stuff, the things that you're talking about. And so when they're gone, no one wants it. No one wants to buy a job, right? I can go get a job with less liabilities than own a business, have a job, and all these bills and responsibilities. So everything you're talking about is well said. Is there like speaking of architect, is there like a blueprint that you would provide quickly with how to scale a business? Kind of like, here I'm thinking about starting a business. What are some steps to get you to that level of things that you need to do? In other words, some essentials that you need to have and do. We've already talked about systems, but is there a blueprint of do this, do this, do this? Because on your website, you've got core values, all good stuff. But how does one, you didn't just come up with all that at once. It was a process.
Yeah, it's a process. Maybe I learned about it too late. It's really, looking backwards on maybe what I should have done. A lot of it I learned through my coaching journey. For the individual who wants to start a business is really looking at ourselves, because it's the inner work that needs to be done first, I believe. What are our core values? We need to understand them, because if you're about to establish a company, you're going to have to put some in that company. Now, are they going to be identical to your core values, or are they going to be slightly different? Because it's, that's a company, not you, the person. So that's one thing. What is your purpose? What is your why? That's important. Okay. And I'm not talking about a goal. I'm not talking about, I want a big car, I want a big house, I want to make a lot of money, I want to do this, that, and the other. Those are just goals. They're materialistic things. But, what's the real point of you? Okay. And you're going to be clear on that, very clear on that, because that's a direction. There's a very clear direction to go in. And everything you do needs to be going in that direction. Because if it isn't, that's when you feel something's a bit off. It's going to prevent you getting in the flow. It's going to prevent you feeling balanced. You're just going to feel something is not quite right, and that is not a nice place to be. That is not a nice place to be. I believe these days that, after the pandemic, we had the great reshuffle, we had the great resignation, we had the great insert whatever words you want,
Yeah.
people moving around, and it's still happening. Okay. And I feel, and that's one of the reasons why I wrote the book that I wrote a couple of years ago called Business as Unusual. It's because it's a lack of alignment of what people's purpose is. And in a lot of cases, there wasn't one, which really doesn't help.
Yeah.
It's a bit like Alice in Wonderland, right? When Alice is speaking to the Cheshire Cat, it says, which way should I go?
Yep.
And the cat's was saying, well, where do you want to go? It says, well, I don't know. And it really doesn't matter where you go. And
Exactly.
a lot of people are like that. How can you go in a direction? How can you feel fulfilled if you don't actually know where it is you were going to go in the first place? So there's a lot of inner work that needs to be done. And once we have that clarity, that's a very, very strong foundation. That's a really good starting point for that. When you establish your company, it also needs a purpose. It also needs values. And yeah, in between those, you will have goals from time to time. Okay. So it's nearly the same thing. So you do it for the individual, yourself first. You need to make, you are good and healthy and ready. And you do it for the company as well. And as you bring people into your organization, you have to teach them the same thing. They've got to buy into the purpose of the company. Otherwise, why are they there? They've got to buy into the core values. All right. But if they don't know their own purpose and they don't know their own core values, there's a very high risk that the reason why they feel out of alignment with the company and things don't feel quite right is because there's a mismatch between that purpose and between those core values. All right. And, so I think one of the greatest things we can do for people is to help them realize that, to help them establish those core values, help them establish those purpose. So when they make, if they join that company or they start a company, we already know where we're going to go. We really believe it. Okay. And everything we do is going to be in alignment with that rather than we're doing stuff and it might be out of alignment. And if it's out of alignment, it means that we're hiring the wrong people. And that's a company error, not the candidate error.
Amen.
Okay. Yeah. So I'd rather get it right from the start because it's really difficult if we're bringing in the wrong people. As an organization, we made a wrong choice. And I can't emphasize more that it is up to the company to select the right people.
Yep.
Okay. And too many times we select the wrong people and we try and blame the candidate. It's not the candidate's fault. Okay.
Yep.
Why would they know? We're supposed to know the company and what we want out of people. Okay. So we should know the type of people that we want. All right. And we need to, the onus is on us to make that to make that right decision. Okay. And if we get it right, well, then those people are happy working for you. They're very highly engaged. They're probably the people you're going to hand over to, right?
Yeah.
It's all good. It's all good. So there are other things in the framework. A lot of them are in the book. The book Business as Unusual, where I talk about different buildings in my metaphor, which is a castle. Okay, we can all imagine a castle in our heads, right? But I give a name and a purpose to every single building, and in order to achieve balance in our lives, we, just like if we were building our own castle, we need to build it in a balanced way. Okay. Just like you're building any building, you got to build it in a balanced way, from the ground up. You can't start with a roof. Um, and And as we're constructing our castle, it's a lifelong journey. We're laying a brick every single day, and it's consciously with intent deciding where to lay it. Which bit of ourselves are we going to focus on? Okay, to maintain that balance. All right. And if we can do that, and if we do that, we feel very balanced, we feel very fulfilled. We're going to be in a great healthy state to really do things. Okay, rather than to feel empty, to feel unfulfilled, to be unsure if we're going in the right direction, and we're hesitating to do things. So we're hesitating to take action. We're unsure if we should be going this way or that way. And the moment that we have that as a business leader, we're going to lose confidence of everybody else who's even looking at us. Okay, nobody wants to follow someone who is indecisive and doesn't know where they're going.
I love that. And it just reminds me of all the business owners I hear say, why can't I find good employees? And to me, that is a red flag of saying, I want to see your mission. Where's your core values? Where's your vision? It's not, there's awesome employees out there. They're everywhere. You're just not ready for them. So for those business owners that have said that, or that are listening that say that, I encourage them to hire a coach like yourself or any coach and get these things established, because that is your problem. That is the problem why you feel you can't find good employees. They're out there. You just don't know. They don't know what to follow.
At the end of the day, you're not there looking for them. If you get it right, and it's very clear what your company does and who you are and what you stand for, you start to become the magnet. Okay. And a magnet does two things, doesn't it? It attracts people and it repels people. And that's exactly what you and your company need to do. You need to attract the right people.
Yes.
And you need to repel the wrong people.
And the only way to do that is with the stuff you're talking about. Do they align with your core values, your mission, where you want to go? Kind of give them a peek under the hood of what this business is all about. I love that. So is that what's in your book? You kind of walk through those processes? Awesome.
Yes, it touches all different things. It shows you how to put together a life purpose. It shows you the importance of being healthy and looking after yourself. It discusses the importance of networking and collaborating. Okay, so it touches all of these things for you as an individual. Okay, irrelevant if you're a business leader, business owner, or not. It's still about people. And going back to what you were talking about before, talk about some of the business owners that you've worked with and some of the listeners. I believe it's up to us also to help build the right person. Okay, things are changing so fast that it's going to get harder and harder to have the perfect person, to employ the perfect person, and they know it all. It's not going to happen. Stuff. All of you listening, or if you're business owners, all the stuff happening today, technology wise, did you learn that at school? No, it didn't even exist. Okay, so even if you take the brightest sparks out of whatever school you want to take them from, there's stuff, the stuff that they need to know, they're not going to know it. And it doesn't matter how good the school was, all the knowledge they've acquired is going to be out of date in a few years. And the skill sets that they need, if you look at, the World Economic Forum, they do a future of jobs report every couple of years. The last one, if you look at that, the sort of the top 10, 20 skills that people require, they're sort of lacking in a lot of people because they're not taught. A lot of these are soft skills. They're not actually taught in school. Okay, so who's going to teach them? All right, so if you want your people to have those skills, you've got to be prepared to teach them. So I'm a huge advocate of, as a leader, whether you are the business owner or not, is you've got to be, number one, coachable yourself, and number two, you've got to be able to coach other people, because you're there to see in them something that that person can't see themselves. Okay, maybe you see something in them. Hey, that person there, I can see that they can help me run this business in the next 5 years or 10 years or whatever it is. I know they've just left school, they're, graduate entry or whatever they are. Okay, they don't know anything, but I see something in them. You've probably seen yourself.
Yeah.
Or I see something in them. Right, but you're going to have to grow that.
Yeah.
You're going to have to grow that. We have to nurture it. Okay. And the best way to do that is to be able to coach them, to be able to mentor them.
Yeah. Where can your book be found?
You can find it on Amazon.
All
You
right.
can find it on Barnes and Noble. Best place to go is to go to my website, because it's got all the links. So if you want to find me, just Google my name, Rick Yvanovich, and then you say, "Wow, this guy really knows SEO." Okay, but I'd like to say that, but I'm the only person on the planet with this name, so that's a bit of a cheat, isn't it? Try
Yeah.
it, try it, try it. So my website is myname.com
And
or
we will put the
rickivanovich.com.
spelling of your last name in the show notes for those that don't know how to spell it. So, TRG, what is it that it does and how does that help people? And then we'll wrap up here.
Okay. TRG, okay, that's my main company. We started off implementing accounting systems, or you can call it financial ERP if you want to make it a bit sexier. So it's all about financial systems, accounting systems, which is great. It's very, very horizontal. And we do other related systems as well. Like, for example, performance management systems, reporting systems, consolidation systems, all that good accounting stuff, treasury systems, you know, electronic, making electronic that procure to pay, just email in the invoice and it all gets miraculously handled by the computer and
Wow.
all the entries are made into your accounting system, no human intervention type of thing. All of that kind of stuff we do. And we do it across all industries, but we have a specific bias, I suppose, to hotels. We've helped thousands of hotels around the world. Yeah, we're pretty good at that, I guess. So that's what the main business does. We also have a boutique offshore development center. This is software engineers for hire. We've been doing that for a while. It's not very big. I think we're about 350 people there. Another business that we have is, I never understood people very well because I'm a numbers person. I'm the bean counter, right? But then I found out a secret formula to people in psychometrics. Okay. So that's all the assessments or testing of people, of their behaviors and things, because it tells you all sorts of stuff about a person. All
Yeah.
right. And so that's what helped me with people, that, yeah, we can use these psychometrics, which will uncover certain skills in people. Okay. And so when it comes to selecting the right people, we can go back to, those sort of children's games, pegs and holes. Each one of us is a unique shape, and every job that we have available is a unique hole. Just find the right shape to go into the job hole. So
I
that's
love
very
that.
much get the right people on the bus,
Yeah.
get them on the right seats. Yeah,
Yep.
it's the same type of concept, and we can use these psychometric tests to do that. And for the, I know a lot of big companies use it. So if there are any listeners who are looking for a job and they're trying to join that great big multinational $1 billion company or whatever, you'll probably put through a battery of tests and assessments and things. That's what I'm talking about. That's another one of the companies that we have, and it's highly affordable. We've made it dirt cheap. because why not? We're trying to help people.
Yeah.
So yeah, we do stuff around that as well. Oh, and I mentioned coffee. We do that.
Yeah, I love it. Well, if for our listeners, if you're curious what good core values look like, I encourage you to go to the website trginternational.com. Go to the about us section under core values. Very well written. Very well written. You'll have to go check them out if you don't have core values. This is how they should be done. I love the examples that you give. This is what this core value is, and this is what it's not. A lot of people forget that part because our translation of what one of yours is passion, how I describe passion, how you describe passion are probably similar but different. But you kind of say, this is what it is, this is what it's not. And so that's very well written.
Absolutely. Now, there's a reason for that. There's a reason for that. Again, people talk about the culture of the company. Okay. Now, as a business owner, you might have done your core values. They may be stuck up on the wall there, and you may or may not have, the kind of the depth that we put into it, what we expect and what we don't expect. But the thing is that it's how people are really behaving. That's the real culture in the company.
Yeah.
So how do you, as the organization, the business owner, how do you control that culture? Okay. So if you've come up with those core values, we have to live them. All right. We have to see if people are embracing them. So one thing that can be done is periodically, maybe quarterly, something like that. You can, gather people together on a voluntary basis, and any challenges that they've ever had over the core values, what is it? So you might have had a core value of, passion. All right. And people may not, they came across an instance, some kind of situation. They thought, which of our core values is that? And what's the right thing to do? Because it's not clear to them. Okay. And you can use that as an example of, they could ask that question and you, the business owner, we handle it like this. Great. You've just clarified for people how the value is interpreted, how it's applied, and maybe the preferred behavior, you want this and not that. That's something that can be added. And then if that circumstance ever happens again, people know how to act. Because what's really happening, if we don't make those definitions, what happens on all those exceptions where it's not clear? And you are not there to clarify. People maybe just use best judgment and do what they thought was best, which unfortunately is maybe not what you wanted.
Yeah, right.
And they're going slightly in the wrong direction. And if you don't detect that, and that goes on month after month, year after year, suddenly, hey, what happened to the culture in this organization? It's shifted.
Yeah.
It's changed. Okay. So the culture is something that's very, very much alive. Okay. And that's a lot of hard work to keep it alive and keep nudging it in the direction that you want it to be. Don't forget that every single new person who joins the organization is going to change the culture. Just like every single person who leaves the organization is also going to change the culture.
Yeah. Well, we've just barely dipped our toe in the water, and I assure you that there are listeners that probably want to connect with you, follow you. What social media are you on that they can do that?
Okay, the best thing, as I said, is go to my website. All the social media links are there.
Okay.
But again, since I am fortunate to have this unusual and unique name, every single one of my social media is in my name, apart from one of them, which I messed up. I had to put a number 2 on it. Yeah. I know on Instagram, I know it's my name. I lost control of my own name, so I recreated it with a number 2 on the end, and it's just silly. Okay.
I've got one of those. Well, as we wrap up, I always ask a final question, and that is, if you were in front of an audience of small business owners, what's a tip, insight, a quote, or a book other than your own that you would recommend that would be applicable to all of them, no matter what size business they have or industry? Just a general.
Okay,
Yeah.
There are a couple of things. I really, really, really like the late Maya Angelou quote, which is, people forget what you said, people will forget what you did, but people will never forget how you made them feel. Okay, so as business owners, you are really the heart and soul of the company, and you need to make people feel something. And if they feel the right way, they're going to love the company, right?
Yeah.
They're going to love it. So, it's although we try and do all these wonderful things, okay, it's really, can we really connect with the people, and can we really make them feel something? Okay. And let's not forget about ourselves. So you business owners who are super stressed and like, where's my business? Why do people see no value in what we're doing?
Yeah.
We've got to feel stuff as well, not just anger or whatever. We got to feel good. Okay. We got to feel fulfilled. Okay, we've got to feel balanced as well. That's what I want everybody to feel. Because if you feel like that, you're in a really, really good place. And if you're in that feel good, that really strong place, you can achieve so much. You really can.
Absolutely. Well, Rick, you're a blessing to many. I appreciate you and your time sharing with our listeners, and I wish you continued success.
Thank you very much, Michael. I really want to express my gratitude for letting me, rant on on your podcast.
All great information. All great.
It's been a real fun conversation, and I hope our listeners have enjoyed it as much as I have. And now, to all you listeners, I really appreciate your time and attention. I know how precious it is. And I look forward to hearing from some of you, learning from your experiences, because you've got good experience. You have great knowledge, okay? And perhaps having the opportunity to share some more in-depth future discussions. And remember, you're not just a participant in this ever-changing world. You are an architect shaping the course of your life, your career, and the world around you and the people around you. I encourage you all to embrace change and define it, not just adapt to it. Be that catalyst in our business as unusual world. Thank you again, Michael, for this wonderful exchange.
My pleasure. Thank you, Rick. Thank you for listening to Small Business Pivots. This podcast is created and produced by my company, Boss. Our business is growing yours. Boss offers flexible business loans with business coaching support. Apply in minutes and get approved and funded in as little as 24 to 48 hours at businessownershipsimplified.com. If you're enjoying this podcast, don't forget to hit the subscribe button and share it as well. If you need help growing your business, email me at michael@michaeldmorrison.com. We'll see you next time on Small Business Pivots.